still not worked.
In the extra.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. You join us live as we watch the skies over. Is this Suffolk? Where is Lakenheath? Over the eastern of England. And to me, anything east of Bristol is actually Europe. But we're watching carefully to make sure that there are no nasty drones there. And actually, I'm looking to see what reaction USAF applied. They actually had a tanker airborne orbiting over here yesterday for the F-15s.
Are you sure they're not refueling those drones in the air?
Yeah.
I never thought of that. Yeah,
I think they're Starlink satellites.
Well, that's another thing. I don't know what the weather was like in the UK. I mean, there's so many things, but as yet, of course, we have had no evidence. I've thought of no way of leading into this thing. But first of all, good evening, everybody. Good evening, all our guests. Good evening to Richard. And then all the others that are normally here, aren't they? Special guest appearance there from Hey Strangers. This looks like another nonsense story. But how are we going to get this one right? How are we going to hold the people accountable for these claims this time? That's a question I'm going to throw out to the floor. Any ideas?
Camped out there with cameras. Camped out there with cameras. The media should be camped out there with cameras. Someone can finally get a picture of the Gatwick drone after it escaped Gatwick.
yes, that's right.
The kicker is, yet again, it's a visual thing where someone has seen lights in the sky. You'll notice it's mostly at night time. It's lights in the sky, and it's going to be something in the background that is kilometers away. And they've seen it and gone, it's a drone, it's over the base, because depth perception and all that kind of stuff is completely irrelevant. It's just, I'm going for someone's reporting manned aviation when it's not even close.
It's paranoia. There's a war going on, so it must be Russians.
Yeah, it is paranoia.
Russians would have lights on their drones,
Yeah, they would, just to be kind.
I do wonder, they have these so-called experts at times, and it just makes you want to cringe, because it's like, guys, are you even doing basic checks here? And the kind of basic checks you're going to do, if you've got any kind of common sense, is you're going to look at the direction where this so-called drone is, and you're then going to check certain things, and you'll be able to see what's going on in the background and go, do you know what? It's not all that it seems,
This would never happen in the USA because they got remote ID, so they'd immediately be able to tell
where
the drone is and where the operator is.
Of course.
Couldn't happen. But isn't it interesting that in America, military bases have reports of drones flying for nights and nights and nights over them in great big formations and all that sort of thing. And yet, I can't remember what RAF base is around Lakenheath, but there'll be plenty of other ones. And, I suppose they're all tucked up in bed, having drunk their cups of cocoa and things like that, and so are not out to look at the night sky. But they're not reporting stuff. And this just yet again exposes there is counter UAS gear in the world that will work. There's better stuff now. Why isn't it deployed? Why isn't it anywhere?
That's the thing that's come out now, and I feel a bit vindicated, because I was saying this like 2 days ago, and even then, enough days have elapsed. I mean, this in itself is you're in farce and mistakes and balls up as legitimate words when you are like 5 days into something like this, and you haven't used the UK national security asset you have, which is the AUKUS system, which is Leonardo's Falcon Shield from Gatwick with the bolt-on sensors. I think it's still got Metis for the RF and so on. The very moment this was going on, if you believe there was drones, that should have been there anyway, and it could do just as it did in Gatwick and prove that there were no drones there, and you were seeing normal air traffic or whatever else it is you were seeing, like cranes. So really, that's what should have happened straight away. So the very fact that you've left it this many days is itself something where someone really ought to be getting a bit of a Santa.
The time of the year
training
tells
flights.
you everything you need to
training
know.
Flights.
Training. He's doing his training flights.
Training flights. Yeah, fair enough.
Reconnoitering the airspace.
Well,
again, though, it comes back with this with the counter drone stuff as well. if you said, for example, oh, it's a state actor and they put on fibre optic, whatever bollocks you want to come up with. Well, for starters, they're not going to put a light on it. So this is the whole thing that's annoying me, as Stephen already mentioned.
Just to throw you.
Nobody is going to do a covert drone with a light on it. You'd be the worst drone spy in the whole universe to even do that. So that's comedy to begin with. But even if you assume this was somebody did it, no light on it, flew it, it's still going to get picked up by your thermal camera. So all you have to do is record it with that, and you've got your evidence. And as always, we're not seeing any evidence because the chances are someone isn't seeing a drone. Because if they were, they'd be able to record it. And as much as anything, if you've seen it, and again, actually going back, taking a step back, we've got that old thing again, which is always a giveaway. You usually hear the drone before you see it. So people should be saying, "I've heard the drone, then I saw it," and we're not getting that. Again, I've seen
stealth
something.
drone.
It's
Stealth drone with bright LED.
I'm not too let's say gender what's happening in the UK in the news, but is there things going on that they would like to have pushed away? Is there stuff happening that they would like to have diverted? Let's say divert the attention of the public. I've not been.
This is coming from a US base, so it's kind of disconnected from that. So the only thing that Gary mentioned, which was a valid thing of asking, but obviously I don't think it's the case now. Counter UAS is being deployed and all the things we've heard. But Gary said,
already been there. Come on, it's already been there. Come on.
Yeah, the point what Gary was making was that they're only supposed to operate to such a time at night for the locals not to annoy them. So it's a good excuse for you to do night operations above and beyond and more regularly by saying you've seen a drone and you're reacting to that. So that you could argue, well, maybe they're preparing for what's going on in Russia one more time for training at night. What a good way of doing it, blame it on a drone. But I don't think that is the case here from all the stuff we're hearing. It sounds more like a mistake is being made and they're doing what they should be doing anyways. If you're going to take it seriously, it's bringing the right gear to check it, and then one way or another,
Well, we already know the answer, don't we? So,
well, we think we do, but we'd like to see evidence either way. I'd like to hear all the articles because they got very excited. They've been knocking on the windows of cars parked in laybys late at night that F-15Es have identified heat sources in laybys. I wonder what on earth could be going on in laybys. They've been sending the police to people, and of course it comes in great big targeting instructions and things like that. Bees and whatever, and this and that. It's just a flipping couple in the lay-by. It's terrible.
Tell you what, you wouldn't want to be a RC helicopter enthusiast in the vicinity of those bases, would you? You could find yourself.
Well, I hope.
Well, you can make yourself some money because you're going to get, you're going to get locked up for no good reason. It's going to be all bullshit made up. And then what you do is you speak to Richard. He goes,
"Have they felt your collar yet, Richard?"
He takes a lot of money from the police force.
When Gatwick happened, and I lived not far from there, not long after I had my collar felt, I remember driving around and just seeing police everywhere looking for drones whilst they're inside their cars. You didn't want to get out in the cold or wet weather at all, and at night, just looking from inside their vehicle. And
It's funny though.
Portaloos dotted up around the place near where they were parked for the whole week. But that was the extent of them looking for drones. And it cost a fortune.
But can you imagine those guys, those officers in the car, and they've got all the lights in the car for all of the applications they use or whatever. So you have that kind of light pollution, which is reflecting against the windows. And then they're looking up and they're wondering, I can't see anything here. It's just ridiculous, and that again just shows that people don't know how to look for things, because light pollution. If you have your phone, for example, if you're out in the dark and you have your phone on, and it's and the bright light, white light really affects your eyes, and then you start to look up, we do this with our drone light shows, and we have people looking up and they're, oh yeah, well there's something there, and but they're having a dot from their eyes, but it's coming from the phone. It really I light pollution from things around you really, really affects your your eyes so badly. So is it any wonder why people make mistakes and why they actually spot things that is it's not there?
And at this point, I have to remember to apologise to Steve, because he was in the Arctic Circle with a drone light show, and he was in the flipping. He was ready to come live, and I didn't spot him at the bottom of the page last week. So we've been live for his show, and I'm going to blame Bruce because Bruce was here as well. So it's Bruce.
No, I actually took a screenshot. I was waiting.
Sorry.
Yeah, again,
I'm going to say you should have done a WhatsApp to one of us at that time.
I should have done that. I should have done that. Yeah.
But I do remember you saying the week before you were going to do that. So yeah, it's still.
I remember him saying that as well, but I blame Bruce. That's all I'm saying, because it's convenient.
Full responsibility.
There we are, excellent, and it'll be my fault next week for whatever else it is I've done wrong. So yeah, I'm sorry about that. But isn't it remarkable that Gatwick and this incidents happen at night? Why don't these incidents happen in the day?
Same time of year.
Obviously, a similar time of year as well, when it's actually dark.
As Bruce said,
the time is dark.
I wonder if all the flights in this US base got grounded and they had immense disruption and nobody could travel anywhere.
No, they got more airborne. They scrambled the wing. They got ready to go. It's an excuse to go flying. Off we go. They had as I say, they had a tanker, and I don't know what permissions you need to orbit a tanker outside of the normal air-to-air refueling areas in the UK. Whether you have to ramp up some sort of proper military threat to have it defined, but they must have done that because it was trawling back and forth around Peterborough and all around King's Lynn and all that, dragging F-15s behind it. Seems a remarkable waste of money. But I suppose while we're on this sort of topic, let's jump across to the Gatwick stuff. And maybe if Richard and Ian can fill us in as to where we are there, because there's a good reason Richard's here.
Well, I shall let Richard go this week, and then he'll know what he can and can't say, and then I can't make any gaffes.
That was a quick body swerve. So I'm supporting Ian at the moment on his FOI appeal from the Information Commissioner's rejection of his complaint, or to enforce his complaint at the moment. And this really is about what the DFT have provided in terms of answers to the ICO and the ICO's decision notice that they've given us. And clearly there's quite a few things at play at the moment. So it's all under consideration, so can't go into enormous detail, but we are putting together a reply. In fact, we've done that today. And aligned to that, we put in a letter asking for more information, of which the DFT has declined to engage with us on. So that's not very good, really. It doesn't show a collaborative way of trying to work through an issue that's arisen because of the lack of response that Ian got through the ICO on behalf of the DFT when he put in his FOI requests. So we are going to submit our reply soon, and the tribunal, first-tier tribunal, will make a decision on paper as to whether they're going to uphold the appeal or not. And it's from there that we'll make a decision as to how we're going to proceed. But we're certainly moving. I mean, at the beginning, it was only the Information Commissioner that we were against, and the DFT has joined these proceedings. So that was quite interesting from that perspective. And so we're dealing with both.
Why would they join? I don't understand. What does that mean, Richard?
So So initially it was just Ian versus the Information Commissioner, because the Information Commissioner didn't align with Ian's view on the DFT not providing him with the information that they should have. So the DFT would have been sought or asked answers by the Information Commissioner, right? And on reliance of those answers, in reliance of those answers, we've appealed the Information Commissioner's decision. What that meant was the DFT have decided to come in as a second respondent. So they're sat on the same side of the table as the Information Commissioner in writing their submissions. And basically what they want to do is strike out Ian's complaint. So to get rid of it completely. So DFT don't want this to go any further.
Oh.
Which is why they've joined the Information Commissioner in the proceedings.
And that then easy wheezy, let's get busy, just disappear off all record, gone. Nothing to see here, move along.
Yeah, strike out, and basically Ian would have to start all over again.
Gosh, it's all so grown up. That's the only trouble with talking to you, Richard. It's all so grown up. Why would they? They want it struck out because Ian's just a nuisance, which we know anyway, or do they want it struck out because it's too close to the bone?
Well, that's a good question, which I don't feel comfortable answering now.
Okay.
Because of where we are. But certainly Ian is known as somebody that's very interested in the Gatwick issues. And you can see that on what's that website called? Where they're
What Do They Know?
Oh, What Do They Know? Thank you. You can see that from his numerous requests on What Do They Know. So that certainly is in the public domain. And he is well known from that perspective. So you can infer what you like from that, really.
Okay, all right. And so what's the time frame on this one? Because isn't there a point at which if the DFT and anybody has emails and information, they can sort of run along the line of, we've deleted it with our normal policies. Our policy is to be this many years, and oh, look, it's quarter past that many years. We haven't got it anymore. Is it being pushed into that sort of territory?
I think there is a possibility that may be the case, but there is case law on this, Gary, that if it's in the public interest, they must review their data retention policies. So if there are people that are interested and are putting in requests, they should be reviewing their data retention policies.
So really, what you're saying with that is knowing that the Gatwick was an issue, and obviously our questions in, and I wasn't just alone in that, and they'd have known the whole drone community was interested in that anyway, outside of freedom of information, but they should have really been saying we should be reviewing our data retention on this. Keeping it for a year or whatever isn't good enough. We should be keeping this for 6-7 years anyway, just because this is such a, from their viewpoint, they're arguing it's such a significant incident, it's changing legislation and regulation, that you kind of think there'd be a cause there, wouldn't you, to say we need to be keeping this longer.
Well, that's what we're asking potentially a tribunal to decide, right?
Yeah.
So will this have knock-on effects for other industries, other places, other things? This idea that they must keep their information longer, or will this only apply to this case and nothing else the DFT does?
I think it's the same much, in a common law jurisdiction with any case law. Once the tribunal have made a decision, the expectation is that decision will be followed in some way, shape, or form. Now, of course, if the decision doesn't go any party's way, not this particular case, but any case, there's always or usually a right to appeal. And from a first-tier tribunal perspective, one can appeal to the Court of Appeal, ultimately. That's where it would end up. Just short of the Supreme Court. So it'd be yeah, in that kind of scenario, that would be quite a big deal.
As I say, this is all a bit grown up for us, isn't it? But thank you to you and Ian for doing it. It's like, well, to me, it is on the whole.
I'd love to get a bit more
Go on.
detail, but I don't think it's appropriate right now.
Yeah, no,
Thing is,
absolutely.
We're always
money,
very appropriate.
if decisions have been made or are being made based on events like that, or based on those events, it's going to be difficult for them to go back and say we were wrong, because money has been spent, money is being spent, decisions have been made, which is affecting many people and the industry. And so really to say that they were wrong, or for them to say that we were wrong, doesn't look good in that case as well. Obviously for the people who suffered and all the rest of it, but from the industry standpoint, and that's what I'm interested in, is from the industry standpoint, for decisions that are being made based on what they think has happened, and they've been communicating this globally, not just in the UK. Yeah. It's very bad.
Yeah, I mean, in this particular case, all that's really at debate is the data retention and these particular emails. So it doesn't reflect on the DFT any further than that. Albeit, I don't think the fact that in general this particular subject of the Gatwick drone being so difficult, regardless of which party's at the other end, reflects on it particularly. Doesn't reflect on transparency from this or the former government particularly well. With the government departments, it should have never come to this kind of fighting that we're having to do. But it's nice to have. It's nice to have a tag team this time, and that's what I'll certainly say.
And people can just respond with, "Nah, I'm not going to answer." If that's perfectly legally okay, is it? Yeah, try again.
No, there's got to be. There are exceptions under the Freedom of Information Act. And one of them is obviously security and defence. One is privacy, not identifying people. And it's trying to get that balance right between any request, Gary, whether they are being transparent and open as designed and underpinned by the Freedom of Information Act, versus making sure that what's necessarily a security aspect or a privacy aspect is not being compromised in a way when they're releasing information. And that's why we've got the tribunals, right? It's there to try and help us get that balance right, because one side will take one view and another side will take an opposing view. So we've got to sometimes go to court and have the fight, which is why they're there. So, that's where we are in this particular situation, but it'll be the same anywhere, obviously.
Yeah,
and
it's
with this particular one, it'll be somewhere around February and March. I imagine before we know what the outcome is. Irrespective of which way this one goes, I think there might be still a few questions left there with Gatwick that can be pursued and might end up at tribunal if they don't get answers, because it will go on.
This won't trigger an automatic, we better hang on to this, or will it trigger, get the waste paper bin out? It won't.
This doesn't really affect that either way, although depending on which way it goes, it could strengthen or weaken behaviour in that way. What it has revealed, and it shouldn't have had to come to tribunal, and Richard could jump in if I shouldn't be saying this, but I think it's all right, is I've asked if there's information beyond email, and I've never had it acknowledged there is, and the tribunal's revealed that there is information stored beyond email as a general principle. So I need to find out, we shall put a freedom of information in separately, if there is Gatwick information that's been held, which would be good then to get that, but it'll also kind of be infuriating that this has gone on for 5 years before they've acknowledged that they're holding on to stuff outside of email, where that's the kind of thing, if you're being transparent and you, with freedom of information and the general principles around it, you would often say, even if you weren't asked, you say, do you have this information? You wouldn't have to say on email or this or there. You just say, have you got this? It'd be, yeah, and it's from here, and it's from here, and it's from here. So I'm hoping, at least, if nothing else, it'll give me an opportunity to find some other information and just, but just the little final bits of the jigsaw, basically. But we will see.
There is case law on that point as well, Gary.
Okay.
Where the ICO has forced the Home Office in one particular case to reveal the other storage platforms that they've got, and also on one occasion compel a reinstatement of an email account. So, that has happened previously.
And that's basically what we need. That would be the solutions here. So fingers crossed.
I look forward to it next March, but it's okay, because also happening next March and into next year is the next thing I want to talk about, which is the fact that UK airspace is going to open up for all, and there's going to be fantastic BVLOS stuff. It's going to be cheap. It's going to be efficient. It's going to be everything we need. And Richard, I've put it on SES News, but it's also on his website at Blackiston's, an excellent blog post about this. So it's all going to be all right. That's the bottom line, isn't it? What do we think of this open air, ladies and gentlemen?
Well, I think their opening proposition, which I thought was interesting in their document, was that open skies, there's got to be equity of airspace, which we know is a fundamental ICAO principle. So unmanned and manned should be using it with equity today. And of course, we're not, because of all the issues we've got around regulation and using BVLOS and everything else. And what I've done here is highlight a number of areas where I think there are gaps that have to be addressed in order for it to evolve to meet all airspace users, right? Cool. And I think one of them really is of course managing the costs for drone operators, and I think that's key here. And it's looking at smaller operators in the initial phases and working out a mechanism by which smaller operators can be introduced. But the other point that I picked up on, and this is actually part of what I'm studying within a UTM framework of my PhD at Cranfield, are these grey areas around liability. So in point 5, Gary, these legal grey areas. So if we do have a legal dispute because, for example, there's a outage or a data error, and we saw this some years ago with a mobile phone company in Eastern Europe, can't remember the name of it, but it was out for about 3 days. I remember going to a conference, and there was this UTM, eVTOL company saying they're going to be fully autonomous. And I said, what are you relying on? And they said mobile phone communication. So what's your redundancy? They said they don't need any because it's so good. And yet there was an outage of 3 days. So if we get an issue where there's a data error or an outage, who is responsible for that fallout? Is it the drone operator? Is it the CAA? Is it the open air program? Is it NATS? Is it DFT? This is this whole UTM piece coming together with all these third-party data providers coming in and feeding in information that somebody is ultimately relying on in order to make an informed decision as to whether to fly or not. And what is the question around liability? Who's going to be responsible should there be a fallout? And so some of that is what I've picked up in this Open Skies document. I mean, the overarching piece to it is absolutely spot on. We do need an open sky, that's for sure. And they're talking about integrating drones with eVTOLs and everything else to have that shared airspace.
I'll just jump in at that point, Richard. I don't like the word open because it's not really open. In fact, I'm thinking of calling it Open Prison Sky, because that's what
It's paid.
it feels more like, because open.
You
Open
see,
boundary.
When you think of open source, like
Yeah,
open source,
it is a play on
it's
open
kind of
source.
giving
It
you
is.
that-
Yeah.
it's giving you that vibe, and that's obviously being
Yes.
done deliberately.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of irks me with this, in that it's not, at the end of the day, it's a hierarchy that goes up. What looks to me at the minute, just with Nats, it looks like a monopoly parading as a open market below it, because you've got a number of UTMs.
It's basically a pyramid sales scheme that Nats proposed, for example, because they'll sit at the top. They are the ultimate data point. However, if you want to use a different UTM, which they say you can do, that means they've got to sell to that service, and that service is then going to sell to you. You know what I mean? It's like a direct sales system. It doesn't matter where you're going. Everything has to go through one company. And that's dominating. That's market capture. It's, they won't allow Google. They won't allow today Google to do that, because they don't allow that anymore. It's like having a cartel, isn't it? That one company has full control.
Maybe you could have a Black Friday sale.
Yeah. I mean,
4 flights for the price of 5.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? If I was going to do something like this, I would turn around and write every drone, every bit of manned aviation, anything that's in the sky would have a electronic conspic. And it is as drones, we are the lowest form of scum in the sky, right? We know that. We know we avoid everything else. So if everything else is transmitting this data, and all we need to know is what's close to us within, say, a couple of kilometers, you don't need to know much more. And we can see that. We don't need a UTM as such. We don't need Nats. You can all chuff off, because everyone's broadcasting this data. And as long as our drone picks it up and sends it back to base, we eliminate, everyone else like a UTM. It become fleet management systems, not UTMs, because you only need to know what's going on at certain places. Do you know what I mean? When on your flight route, you don't care about anyone that's the other side of the country or 10 miles away or 5 miles away. They're irrelevant. You don't care about anyone over 2,500 feet, for example. If you're doing drone delivery, you won't care about anyone at 3,000 feet. The only thing
we're not going to care about eVTOLs, because they're not really flying.
They're not going to happen. Yeah.
They're not going to happen.
Wait, don't you knock my eVTOLs.
eVTOL, how to waste your money. If you want to do some gambling in aviation, invest in eVTOL.
You guys are such skeptics. I got my money on EHang.
I still reckon electric helicopter would be the way to go. I still think
Electric nothing.
that would be the one to go for.
Well,
But
the owner of Vertical Airspace has just given up his majority shareholding. He had his call options cashed in for equity. So they'll keep him going for another year.
Wow.
Take more than a year.
But it is basically pay to fly. Looks like Nat's system. It shouldn't be called Open Skies. It should be called pay to fly.
I think Nats itself should be a UTM company and compete with all the others.
Compete with all the others.
Yeah, they shouldn't be the master. But that's why I say, everything in the sky, in the UK skies, by law, has to have this EC. You know what I mean? And then you're responsible then, because you're responsible to avoid everything else. You don't rely on a UTM. You don't rely on anything else. It is your decision, your company or you, the pilot, as is today. And you never know. It might stop manned aviation hitting manned aviation. Wouldn't be that nice? Wouldn't it be that nice? Bring that safety feature in.
Not important. But we've got to do something to stop all these collisions, because, we can't keep going on the way we are. Oh, hang on.
Kingsley, what's going on?
Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this in the area where the drones are. I just thought a responsible aviator would check the NOTAMs. Multiple heli operations without lights. Yellow zones indicate. From November 18th. Oh, hang on. When did all these reports start? Oh, that's right. It was November 20th, wasn't it? God. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, but look at that. Breast Sands. Anyway, look at that huge area that's there. Oh, is it Richard? If you're watching, why can't it stay there when I zoom out? Huge area. Look at that.
Funny
old thing.
There's no drone. People have been seeing manned aviation, haven't they?
Yeah, something like that, isn't it? Anyway, I stopped the flow, didn't I? But with that
Sorry.
breaking news, breaking news.
Do you
of-
think this will?
oh,
Do you think this will cause a push for remote ID now on drones? Because that would have solved the problem, wouldn't it?
Oh.
well, funny you should mention remote ID in the UK. Can I mention this, Ian? Maybe I can. I don't know. Funny you should mention. Well, and also another thing. Someone else has put it in the clear as well. Apparently, the government's not that happy with the DFT and RIT, and they've refused funding for it for when they expected it to happen, and that's pushed to 2030. And another dicky bird told me that Future Flight will lose its funding next year. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, the 2030 is not any set date. It's just a thought that with the funding not being there, it'd be likely if there was an earlier date, that would be it. I've heard the same thing about Future Flight as well, and I got the impression that's partly why the fees were going up. It was to fill the gap from that funding going.
Future Flight certainly has a purpose, but I've got to the point personally where I feel that we don't need any more case studies for BV loss. I mean,
I totally agree with you there, Richard, because sorry there, but I do agree with you because we know drones can deliver. We know they can fly. We know they can fly far. The only thing that we need to sort out now is the network operators, because just going back to what we were saying earlier, is that in the UK especially, I'm here in Finland, where it's the home of the mobile network. This is where we have the best mobile network. Now, I'll say this off the record, is that I know that there has been trials going on using these little remote ID tags, drone tags, and they're losing network connection in certain areas in Finland here. Now, if you lose network connection here, it's bad, right? It's bad. But they have been noticing that during certain trials that they are losing network operation. Now if it's bad here, which is very rare, it's going to happen in the UK a lot because your network connection is shocking.
Yes, it
It's
is
shocking. So how are you able to have something like the the Future Flight or anything else, or want to have BV loss, because you can't rely on that.
And you're right, Stephen, because I live in Lincolnshire. I live in Lincolnshire, so we have mass areas where your cell signal is crap. We have mass areas around here, which is why EC, electronic conspic on all things, would make more sense. Because then, look, BV loss, right? We know hobbyists have been doing that since about 2000. Hobbyists have been able to fly over 100 kilometers quite happily, and they've been able to go out and come back. And we know that's been done around the world in various places, okay? We all are aware. Drones can fly BV loss. The only thing that's missing, is the regulator getting themselves sorted out to allow it, and making those regulations clean and simple, and not taking a year to get that permission, right? So it's the regulators that have got the problem, because they can't decide the best way forward. They've got the brick. We know what drones can do. Drone delivery, we don't need any more tests. We don't need anything else now. We know what they can do. What we need is a regulator that goes, right, detect and avoid, we accept this. This is what we're willing to accept for risk analysis or whatever, and you can now get your permission. And that's it. We don't want temporary danger areas. You've got open skies, not a temporary danger area to do the delivery in, right? Open it all up. It's about time to take a risk. But the problem is they can't take the risk. And that's their problem.
Because it's the word risk. That's why.
Yeah. And they can't take that. They're going, can't have that. Look, if it was about safety and all about safety, and that was the only thing, I would say, look at manned aviation. If it was all about safety, you would force anything in the sky to have EC, because we know that not having it has cost lives. But quite clearly, the human life in the air, manned aviation, the risk is considered acceptable to not enforce that in any kind of way. Do you know what I mean? Legally, that they accept that risk. That's a given. But actually having drones do deliveries and overflying populated areas, that's a risk they're not willing to accept. Until the regulator gets past that, it's just stuck in a loop.
And here we are.
They'll fly over built-up areas.
It's
Look at
the
that, look what
regulator.
happened there.
Yeah, it's the regulator until the regulator sorts itself out, decides what's acceptable. I mean, they have this thing about overflight. They're trying to pull it at the minute, we think, again, with the new PDR-AO1 survey that's gone out. So they're asking, where do you normally fly, this, that, and the other. And it's quite interesting, because if they want to go to the horizontal separation and they say no overflight, I think they need to switch to say no hovering over uninvolved people, because transit isn't the problem. If you're above someone and the drone fails and it's in transit, it's not going to hit them. It's gone past them. You want to cross a railway line, you don't fly along it, you fly alongside it, or you're going to go over it. You do it the shortest and quickest route. Same as a road. You go the shortest, quickest route. You don't go with the traffic. You go over jobs are good. And, it's not being actually over the road that's the problem if you're in transit. It's about 20 meters before you get to the road is the problem, because that's where it fails. It's just that's where it's going to land. But, yeah, smart motorways, but the problem is we live in a world where risks happen every day. If you believe half the stuff the CIA says or DFT on risk analysis and that, they must never go out their house. They must all work from home, because they're never getting a car.
But most accidents happen in the homes. That's not a safe place.
They do.
And the
They
thing
do,
is,
yeah.
regulators
Maybe
with
that's
this
why they go to work. Maybe that's why they go to
regulators
work.
with this. They manage risk. They don't try and eliminate it, because it is folly. You would never do anything done. You manage it to an acceptable level, as Mark says, but they're not doing that. They're trying to eliminate risk, and it's never going to work.
Now, what was
It's quite
interesting is, so at DroneX, I was speaking to one of the CA guys that I know.
We don't
Careful
talk
what you do
about
that
drone. We don't talk about DroneX here.
Did you get wiped out as well?
Well, no. So I spoke to the guy, and we were just talking. He says, risks and hazards have changed in time, but I went away thinking about this and drones and risks and everything, and overfly, is it safe, not safe, whatever. And look, when I first started in 2011-ish, you had the DJI NASA, we had the DJI Wukon. Now, you wouldn't trust them back then, right? I would never.
No, even back then they were terrifying. Imagine, and
Right.
and they were on big frames.
Yeah, exactly, right. So we have big frames, big batteries, LiPos, LiPo technology. You have GPS that may just fly away. I heard of the big airframes doing a quick bump because the DJI Wukon decided, actually, I'm over there. And it would just go. I've heard the stories when one going into the sea and all sorts, flying out towards wherever. Never happened to me, thankfully. But I come away and I think, do you know what? Technology has moved on, and it's got better and better and better. The firmware today is so good, it's scary. Look at ArduPilot, right? That is scary how good that is. DJI aircraft, look how good they are. Look at the Skydio, look how good it is. Today, if when you talk about hazard of overflight or the risk to the person on the ground, it's never been safer, for these machines to be in the air. It's never been safer. We don't use aircraft that fall out the sky all the time. We never would do, because as soon as it becomes faulty or it's got a bug, they have to fix it, or it gets a safety notice like the M210s did with their battery problems. Luckily they didn't hit anyone, the M210 issue, but it was very quickly dealt with. The technology now is just scarily good,
Well,
and they go in. It makes no sense.
Look at what DJI's launched in China today: 95 kilo payload on the T100. That's so
amazing.
Regulated the regulators. Why I want to say that is because there's actually going to be a seismic shift now in what stuff can carry and abilities and all that sort of a thing, and the regulators aren't ready for that. We're still playing with, well, if we've got a 20 kilo load and we're going to do this, and this. They're playing now with stuff that was quite exciting 10 years ago, not so exciting 5 years ago, and now it's like, don't bother applying. The new lightweight is 95 kilos, the DJI T100.
And here's the thing: the Western world, we will lag behind now because China, the Middle East, and all that. They don't mind a DJI cart carrying that kind of weight in certain conditions. Here, it takes so long to get a permission to do anything here that's outside scope. It's scary. Your company will pour a fortune down the sink getting that permission just to even flight test one, in an open area. It's crazy. It would take you months. You could spend 6 to 9 months trying to get the OSC to do that, just to do a little bit of flying in a field, that alone anything else. And it's just crazy.
And because of the weight limitations on that, not the weight bearing amount of 90 odd kilos, the regulator will be inclined to make or pigeonhole that into the certified category as opposed to the specified.
Maybe.
And so we're going to get some blurred lines, I think, between the two there. And what's the benefit of certified? Well, it's an hourly rate that the CAA can charge for your permission.
Oh yeah,
Right.
they do that for the OSC. If you're flying, so the OSC is £253 an hour, or unless it's gone up, which it might have done, knowing the CAA.
I would just like to say that here in Europe, that doesn't happen. I was shocked to hear that. I found this out a couple of months ago, what the CAA charge per hour and the amount of times that they get that. I could not believe what I heard. Here, that doesn't happen at all.
Oh yeah,
And it's going to get a lot worse with the news. Very many proposed fees. So to me, it's like open areas. Look, shiny thing. Look over here. Look. Don't look over here where we're quietly adding extra charges to all the documents. And look out, open air. It's going to be great. Open air. No, don't listen to anything. Open air. Really is how it seems to be going.
I've got an FOI request in that's due sometime in the second week of December on how they've computed all of their new charges to be imposed under this consultation. So I'll share that with you when I get it.
I've got an FOI in because I wanted to
There's just trouble here, isn't it?
I am glad this is
I
happening.
wanted to know about so PDR01 holders. So PDR01's about 3,000 operators at the minute, but they have 8,000 organisations registered with the CA. There's 3,000 PDR01. So I've asked for the old numbers from about 2017 all the way through to 2024, and I want to see where it got to in its peak and where it is now, because I reckon 2017, 2018 it was high. I reckon it was 7,500 to 8,000 holders, and I reckon when 2020 came in, it fell off a cliff. Is what I think. 2020, 2021 is where the nosedive started, because technology has done something the CA never expected, nor any other regulator. It's got lighter aircraft. It's far better, and they just can't keep up. They just can't do it.
I think it may also be when, if you got the old permit to fly, would have expired then before you had to do the GVC, because didn't you have 2 or 3 years after that?
Yes. So 2023.
So a lot of people may well have just not done the GVC, thinking I'm not getting anywhere with this, and it might have dropped off.
Yeah, I mean, there's about 8,000 GVC holders. So people actually hold a GVC is about 8,000, but there's only 3 with the PDR01 permission.
It'd be interesting to know how many people had the permit, because they gave you, I think, 2 or 3 years after.
Yes.
I think I had it. I had the permit. PFCO.
Yes,
right. I had that for 3 years, I think, and then I didn't do the GVC. I just didn't renew because the regulatory burden for me was just say much, really.
Yeah, I don't.
And the worst thing is they're replacing the GVC with something else now. It just endlessly never stops. And it's
Are they?
so frustrating.
Yeah, the
Yes,
problem
it's,
is regulation.
it's an RPL, isn't it? Like here,
Yeah, RPL 1
Yeah,
and 2.
you get a remote pilot's license like we have here.
Yeah, it's
So they're actually going to call it a license.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they hate
And
it.
but actually, newsflash, a little bit late if you've watched Bruce's videos, he's actually a pilot now. And I thought
Congratulations,
there
Bruce.
was ICAO resistance to ever using the word pilot.
You look more like
Well,
you're in the
really-
Navy than the
The
Air
Yeah, I
Force.
know.
on their way.
I was going to
The
say,
epaulets are coming.
but
For
they
some
did, Bruce,
reason,
didn't they?
That's just made me want fish fingers.
Yes.
Yeah, someone said in a comment on that it's just that they're preparing to introduce charges, so they want to bring you into the regulatory framework as a pilot.
Yeah,
Probably
they do.
is.
It's great. The problem is now, I think, and I keep complaining this to LinkedIn because there's a Yasa guy on there who keeps going, "Oh, a new thing for drones." I'm like, stop piling in the regulation. Stop piling in the BS. Knock it off. Simplify. Interesting, the RPAS survey that just came out, they did a survey a bit ago. It's not quite closed yet. The number one thing from all drone operators, the number one thing is reduce the amount of regulation BS. There's too much of it. It's ridiculous to fly a drone. The amount of BS you have to follow. If I said to someone, how many ways do you think there are to legally fly a drone? How many here can answer the question if I was to ask all of you? How many ways do you think there are to fly a drone legally? And even I'll have to stop and think about it.
Hmm.
Do you want to take a guess? Anyone want to take a guess?
But are they going to have, let's say, medicals if you have a remote pilot license? Are you going to have to take medicals?
You do here. You
Oh,
have to have a
really?
medical here. Yeah.
Really?
You do here.
Wow.
Yeah.
To fly a drone?
Yep. And you have to do whole manner of the standard aviation stuff. Here you have to do transatlantic nav and stuff like that on the nav
Ooh,
course.
that's
You have to
important.
do all sorts of things.
You have to be a
All
fit and
sorts
proper
of
person.
things. We
It's
never
crazy.
find one of those, but yes,
So-
you
so-
do. Yeah, you
So
do.
I'm just now thinking that if you want to apply for a remote pilot's license in the UK, it's going to cost a lot of money, and then you have to have your medical. So you'll probably have to wait 7 or 8 months from the NHS to get a medical. For that. It takes so long, and the business is gone.
Yeah.
But I thought ICAO railed against ever adding the term pilot to RPAS operation, remotely piloted aircraft system. But I didn't think they were ever going to put the word pilot in, because that also makes you hope that should someone cause you drama when you're operating commercially in your ops, you've got more leverage, because we haven't had that if someone
No.
shoots you down,
No.
we haven't had that
have
leverage.
All
Just,
the responsibilities, none of the privileges.
There's a video I'm actually going to have to put up, rip a bit and put it on the internet, because a lot of people haven't seen it, but it's quite interesting, which I'll get into in a minute. I'll have to derail things for just one moment. Ed Stone in the chat, I've noticed him on LinkedIn doing lots of
Yes,
freedom of
I have
information.
too.
He's doing that many. I'm feeling like I'm not keeping up with the game, to be quite honest. So,
And Chris
He needs
is
to-
also there. Chris
he
is
needs to be
also
on the show
doing them.
sometime and be given a biscuit for that.
He does. A biscuit? Did you say a biscuit?
A
Who's
biscuit,
giving
yeah.
out biscuits? Who's giving out
was-
biscuits? We
That-
don't
that
have
was
that.
Somebody's freedom of information.
What's-
you eventually
I was in the green room there, Gary.
Was that in the
biscuits
green room? Hey, what's going on?
Anyway, what
Yeah,
I was going to go on to, funny enough, I'm watching it. Dispatches. It's a really good documentary. It's the Channel 4. I'd say it's our best documentary output from UK channels. Kind of like for the American audience, 60 minutes, I imagined your equivalent. But they were filming with a drone over a way site. So it's like what do you call it? Yeah, where all the rubbish goes basically, but there's certain stuff that's not supposed to go in it in the UK, like plasterboard.
Landfill.
Landfill. That's the word I'm looking for.
I was going to say Parliament. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But when I was still filming, and bear in mind, this is a Channel 4 documentary, camera person, or might even be the producer himself out there doing the stuff like some do these days. And they literally tried to shoot it out of the sky with a gun. And the presenter on the documentary just says it matter of fact, as though that's normal and acceptable. And then there's a response back from the company, again thinking it's normal and acceptable, saying, well, it was our security guard. And I'm thinking, why hasn't anybody just stopped for a minute? I think that, how have we got in this situation that anyone even thinks that's acceptable? That should have been the police being called and not being dealt with. But that just shows the way the drones just aren't getting the protection they should have in the UK. So I'm going to get that piece off there and just post it out, because it's kind of a scary point to be at. Because when I was thinking that as well, I was thinking, if there was rigged, this is it again. They would have actually then located her position and gone after her, and that then puts documentary at risk.
You've put me in a position of reminding everybody the most successful story on SES News when we broke this. Texas changed the law. These guys found blood in the river. Was there a better picture? I can't remember. So 2012, I can't remember. It's so long ago. But they found blood in the river. It got environmentally reported. And then Texas changed the law so that if you take aerial images of someone's property, it can't be used against them. So that was a terrible thing. They ran a pipe from this meat factory straight into here for the blood. There it is there. Going off down there. So I'm not surprised that documentary makers are finding themselves under attack.
I've got a question for Richard actually on this.
Oh dear.
Well, you may be aware of someone that got done by civil law for the drone flight.
The drone flight.
I
think Richard's aware of a drone flight. Yeah, I'm sure he's aware of a drone flight.
So they got done for the footage that they took over a private estate house.
Yes, isn't this Anglo International and Wainwright, that case?
It could well be.
So this is trespass now.
Yes.
So this is what I was going to talk with Gary about a while ago, but I'm sorry, Gary, it's been a bit late.
That's all right.
So,
life goes on.
Yeah, so this is a significant shift really in how the law views trespass via drone flights. And from what I understand, it relates to drones with a camera. So there was this piece of land, industrial piece of land, that nobody went on, and an injunction was put in place to prevent anybody from going on it and trespassing on it too. And what happened was, as part of nobody going on it, they included drones in that, really at the last minute. And drones got in literally under the radar on this. And so what we've now got is Section 76 of the Civil Aviation Act 82, whereby you can fly at a reasonable height, which offers drone pilots some degree of protection, versus this trespass case now. Because what is a reasonable height, right? And this is really in relation to unauthorized photography or surveillance that would potentially void that protection. So do we have trespass or not? And what are the responsibilities of the operator in relation to it?
Question.
Yeah.
Question. So I now have the question, right? So it's in relation to taking photos of said site, for example.
Yeah.
So what about Google and their planes and mapping? Because now, obviously, I know they're at 30, I want to say 38,000 feet or thereabouts. They're high, right? So how does this relate to them? Because they don't care. They will take the image every 12 months, for example, of said site,
Yeah.
And you can just go on Google Maps and you can compare backwards and forwards. So how is it discriminated? So why are they discriminating against a drone but not something like that? Because part of that case, did it not say that the photos or video may encourage trespass? That was part of their argument, wasn't it? Because they want to keep people off. But actually, I would have argued Google Maps quite clearly is making me go, oh, I wonder what's there. That's changed. I want to go and have a look. I want to go and trespass.
But you
That's
can also order
encouraging.
satellite images as well. So if you want satellite images, you can order satellite images from a certain area. It is quite costly, but if you want a certain place photographed, you can get it.
Yeah, so I just didn't understand. I was trying to understand why it's just
Well,
against.
they're
Because I would
probably
be going, you can do it this way, you know.
Yeah. I think that they're probably relying on the case of Bernstein, which was
Right.
some decades ago,
Yeah,
which was where an aircraft operator was flying next to some adjacent land, nice country house in Kent, took some pictures of it. When he landed, he went round, knocked on the door, and tried to sell the Lord there the pictures. And the Lord went nuts, saying, "Why are you filming my land?" And he took it to court and lost the case. And so and the reason why was because that wasn't considered a trespass and was reasonable in all circumstances. So it's that balance again that we're talking about earlier, really, between rights and privacy, I suppose. But here, what we've now got with respect to an operator is some difficulty in knowing whether you're trespassing or you're flying at a reasonable height. Because every drone that we know of has a camera, even delivery ones, right? Especially delivery ones now, who are going to be recognizing a QR code to land on and deliver a product. They're going to have a camera on it.
well, it gets better than that because the Amazon ones, in theory, could map their way to drop off. And what they can do is they can go, oh, so we've now got real-time data of everything that we've just flown over. That household needs some grass fertilizer or something. That's number and it could be anywhere in the route they go to and from. They know, and they'll go, oh, that's in our Amazon database.
Well,
Let's bring up grass for sale. You know, it will know that the data you could pluck would be astounding.
well, hands up, which company owns the patents for data gathering from delivery? Oh, Amazon. That's right. They've already patented
And how
that.
you can pay? They can't pay.
They have the patent. They have done. They have done.
Oh.
People in America patent
Yeah,
everything.
because
They'll patent a knife
But you
and
could
fork.
already do that. We could do that in 2014, 2010. We could do that. We could do
That's
the
the-
delivery capture data.
That's
So
the that's
I
the
can't. But BS. I would still capture that data and not care. That patent's BS.
well, there we are. And this week on Richard
Sorry.
represents the patent lawyers against
Wait, against me.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mark's coming live from a cell somewhere or other, because I think Amazon. Yeah, it's a little bit of the. It's a little bit like Skydio have bought all those patents from GoPro, and now at the moment with them losing the SLR contract, that's the value that they've got in their company is those patents. But we spoke about that last week, I think.
Yeah. Will be the value.
Where-
So what is a
Well-
reasonable height, Richard? So Richard, come on, give us a reasonable height. I've got 120 meters I can fly in. What's my reasonable height, Richard, please?
Yeah. So if it was me and I was being particularly annoyed by Amazon flying over my house all the time, or whoever it is, sorry, not just Amazon, but it could be anybody, I'd be saying, I want the full 400 feet, please. I don't want you flying over my house.
Well, so you would say it has to be 120 meters is reasonable, not like 80 meters to 120. Get it up, but you want it right near the top. Then,
Yeah, and potentially, one could deploy the argument that the camera used would identify me, and that's personal identifiable information. So I would own that data, and that's where you've compromised my privacy.
Well, is that strictly speaking true? Because in a public space, oh no, you're not a public space on your garden, are you?
No. No,
Oh.
it's-
The one thing is true there is the typical cameras on that won't be seen near that kind of height. But if you had a drone with a zoom, you're then in a dodgy territory that you're saying, well, you could do if you wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can
A
zoom in
delivery drone
digitally anyway,
shouldn't,
can't you?
shouldn't have something.
Oh, I
like
don't know.
that.
That doesn't count because you're just doing pixels, so you still won't be seen out. I mean, really, your typical drone is no better than a mobile phone. So once you're more than 5-10 meters away, you're not going to be able to tell somebody's face. You're just going to be able to tell it's a person and it's a smudge of face.
There was I think there was a kind of like a news report in Dublin last week or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember, where someone was complaining about Mana, and it was a kind of typical Karen who was just complaining about the noise and all the rest of it. Blah, blah, blah,
Was she called Karen?
I don't think she was called Karen.
I'm sorry. I thought that.
Having had first-hand experience with Mana and seeing their operations and knowing how they operate, the cameras aren't actually active, and and the camera they have is just like an FPV camera at the bottom, and it's just there to identify if there is someone actually below the drone, so that they can make a decision whether they actually you have to lower the food. It's not there for anything other than, yes, we will deliver, and because I've seen this, it's off the whole time, and the operators, when it gets to his position, it then comes on, and then they will lower it if they see that there's no one there, so but of course Amazon are completely different, and they are all data. But I think when you're looking at the other companies, that's not what they are actually doing.
Yeah, I noticed one thing Mana did that was clever as well is the route planning. It won't do the drones over the same route continually, because then you would get the noise complaints. It will vary it slightly, so you're not going the exact same route to get from A to B. So I think
they go different heights as well, Ian.
Kind of things.
They operate at different heights.
And they usually just stay at one height.
Okay.
So, because usually, knowing what I know, they have to deal with other, let's say other manned aviation and whatnot. So they have to stay at. So it is usually one height.
The really good news is, though, if you live in a flight restriction zone, that'll keep a lot of drone deliveries out of your way anyway. Because
not really, no.
I reckon round here it would.
Yeah. Well, I know that I think that where they're flying in Dublin, it's in a flight restricted area, but they have their own area, and they do actually communicate with the tower at Dublin, and they so. Yeah,
I've got the Reds here, so I don't see it in a big hurry. Me, they're a bit funny stuff.
But then the reality of where you are is you probably don't have the number of people that's required to make a sensible drone delivery operation.
100,000. Yeah, it's only 100,000 people.
When we done our drone light show last week in the Arctic Circle.
That would have been good to see that. That would have been really interesting.
There'll be some video coming soon. We were right in the CTR, right? We were right in the CTR. And it's not only, it's the busiest time of year because it's Santa Claus land. So you have people coming over to visit Santa Claus. We were right in Santa Claus Village, actually. But you also have the NATO base, which is also part of the airport. So you have the Hornets and the F-16s flying out all the time. So... But they were absolutely they were really, really cool with us, and it was all down to communication, and it was fantastic. And if we wanted to do a flight, I would phone the tower, and they would say, "Well, we have a flight just about to come in, so can you wait 10 minutes?" Yeah, that's fine. Wait 10 minutes, and then they would put up 1,000 drones, and then I'd phone them back to say the drones had landed. And the people in the tower were like, "That was amazing." Well, we're sitting watching. They were watching it from the tower.
Yeah, brilliant.
I had that for Blackpool because we were inside their FRZ for a flight, and we had the same reaction. You know, you call them before you take off, you do the flight, you ring them afterwards, and yeah, the feedback's amazing. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've said this before, and I'll say it again right now. That is when I would have been a spotty youth on the end of the phone in a tower. If somebody rung up and were friendly and had a plan and it was all good, you go, yeah, okay, cool, whatever, crack on. But if someone came called and were very officious and full of nonsense, you say, no. It's a very simple system. If you talk to air traffic controllers are human beings, you know.
Yes.
If you just talk to them nicely, you'll probably be okay. They really don't want to stop you flying.
And you know, that's what I used to, when I was teaching, right? That's roughly exactly what I said to my students. The person on the other end of the phone is a human being. Speak to them nicely, be polite. They will do what they can to help you.
But
They're
for how
not
much
there
longer
to
will that be
stop
the
you
case?
flying. You know,
AI.
well, now it's all on
AI.
a net. Like drone assist, isn't it? So you've
That
got
would
drone assist.
never replace me. Maybe
15 quid. 15 quid for a flight. You know, it's pay to fly in an FRZ now. 15 quid, 25 quid. What do you want? Drone assist. And that's
It didn't cost us a penny to fly in the CTR. It didn't cost us a penny.
And it shouldn't. You know what I mean?
Maybe that's how we argue equity in the UK versus what they're doing in Europe. So why is it that airspace users in Europe get it for free, and in the UK you don't?
Because we're an easy target. You know, there's only what 200, just under 200,000 drone flies. It's an easy way to make a bit of cash.
More than
and
that.
the government right now wants to make cash all it can.
It's more
Starmer
than
wants
that.
as much
It's a
cash
lot
as he
more
can
than
get,
that.
doesn't he?
No, it's about 200,000 on my last figures. Don't get mixed. The biggest thing that gets mixed up is they put the flyer ID and the operator ID together, and they join those numbers up and go, it's like 500,000. It's not. The amount of people that pay is about 189, I want to say. Are you going to make me dig for
interesting? No, I'm digging for my stats as well now.
Do you want me to find my freedom of information request stuff?
No, it's all right, because in a minute we'll be moving on to Ian's hour and a half of whatever it is Ian's got to say.
Ian's hour.
I'm sure Ian's hour. Yeah, Ian's hour. That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
That's exit stage left.
As we prepare to enter Ian hour, are there any other stories before everyone runs away?
You haven't mentioned the CAA.
Oh, here we go.
Apparently wanting to ban you using any drone older than 3 years old. That's their latest new idea.
Oh yes, that's right. That's the new thing.
That's why it's in the survey.
Well, I'm assuming that's why they're asking. Yes,
that's why they're asking in the survey, and that is terrible because drones over 3 years old are not unreliable. Let me be clear, you know, but that will be horrendous. Well, you imagine, Stephen, if someone said to you, you couldn't fly a swarm drone that's over 3 years old.
Yeah, we wouldn't have any business.
Yeah, but since they don't have our ratings for the various parts on drones, you've got to have some way of ensuring that, you know, they don't have these clunky old drones that pose a risk to the public.
That's scary. I didn't know that one, Ian. Thank you.
Well, I had put two and two together. I might be getting fired, but I can't imagine any other reason for asking that question.
I agree with you. You know, and you know, a return on investment. You know, some people it's quite tricky to do. I could see them saying anything over so many years old is condemned to the open category. I think that's what they would do. They wouldn't ban it completely. They'll just say, right, it's got to go to the open category, far from people, because it's a legacy aircraft and we want it gone out of the way. And that's what I think they would do. I don't think they would stop you flying it. They'll just shove it into the open category, far from people.
Yeah, my issue with that is the drones aren't moving at the rate where something 3 years old would have anything about it that wouldn't be reliable. You know, that motors are ridiculously long time. the last 4, and you can replace those individually anyway in most cases. And the software, well, you normally get some degree of firmware updates anyway. If you're running ArduPilot, you'd still be able to put the latest version on there, so you've got no different functionality. But even DJI would still do a degree of updates. I think you might want to do something if it's come end of line and software is definitely not going to be updated. You may want to put some rules in there, and that might force DJI actually to keep software updated over a number of years. But yeah, I think that would hit people in the pockets for stuff where, because I mean stuff if you had a drone that you use for more new stuff, maybe you do it for like indoor to outdoor flying. If you had your Avata, you might not want to go to Avata 2 and Avata 3 because they're not really opting anymore. Other than be like an increment in the camera. It's just another forced expense on you. Be nice if they were to do something like that. You said it as maybe 5 years where you really would be pushing it.
Well, Dan Moss there is saying the obvious and sensible thing, how many parts you swap out before it's classified as new. And for those that don't know it, for US viewers, you should seek out a thing called Trigger's Broom. And a Trigger's Broom is what you might exactly end up with. Let's find it. Should we find Trigger's Broom? See if I can find it. Please keep talking amongst yourself while I find Trigger's Broom. It's a very important business
The
analogy.
one thing seen now is just on social media, just looking at X at a minute, but I'm sure it'll be on Blue Sky and whatever else as well. Oh, by the way, Bruce, get yourself on Blue Sky, join the team over there as well. What was I going to say now? I've said myself. Oh yeah, every journalist now thinks they're a drone and counter drone expert, and the things that's being discussed say the system that's being deployed can take command of any drone and fly it back to the pilot. And it's like you've misunderstood. It's what they're talking about is jamming and return to home. But if you could detect the drone going back, there's a good chance if you could bounce it back, he's on RF anyway, in which case you could detect his radio and just go and arrest him without having to do that. So it's just little niggles there, here and there, as the rumours are spreading and people getting slightly different ends of the stick. But the trouble is, again, you've just got a big argument with people going, either it's a drone again, and then other people go, no, it's not a drone, it's an alien. Alien.
Well,
and we're going, no, it's not. It's neither. Calm down, everyone. It's just people getting worked up about lights in the sky that are neither aliens nor drones. Such things happen.
What about smuggling guns into prisons with drones? Wouldn't that be? I mean, you could write a story about that with hypothetically use the word "could" in the headline, and you could start it off because it's a drone story with "it's only a matter of time."
Yeah.
Boy, what about aliens holding a gun being flown in with the DJI? Yes, but
I think on that one, because I'd not seen that at time, but I think you should bang it into chat and let Gary bring it up, and we can all get angry together because I think it deserves some anger.
But but you got to remember this area where this current faux pas thing is happening is near Rendlesham Forest, which was in the 60s. It was one of the UK's biggest UFO mysteries, and it was all in this area. And lo and behold, it's there. Now let's see. Can you hear this, people?
Saving the council money. I happened to mention to her one day that I've had the same broom for the last 20 years. She was very impressed and said, have a medal. 20 years. It's a long time, Dave. Yeah?
Well, that's 2 decades, isn't it?
I wouldn't go that far. But it's a
Treat, just a second. If you've had that broom for 20 years, have you actually swept any roads with it?
Of course. But I look after it well. We have an old saying that's been handed down by generations of road sweepers. Look after your broom.
Would your broom will look after you?
No, Dave. It's just look after your broom.
Well, that I'll say.
Yeah. And that's what I've done. I've maintained it for 20 years. This old broom has had 17 new heads and 14 new handles in its time.
So that's Trigger's broom. That's quite a famous saying in the UK. So that comes around to Dan's how many parts. Foo Fighters, can you change out? Audio is good. And Ed Stone saying, was it 1956? Yeah. So that nuclear the UFO was potentially a nuclear crash. So that perhaps they are flying again for exercise purposes or something like that. What else was I going to say? I don't know what I was going to say. We've gone over an hour and 20. So go ahead, Ian.
Dementia's going.
But it suits them to move the let's say the narrative from UFOs to drones. It really suits them. It's like we have an answer. Yeah. People are not going to be, we're not going to. We just blame drones. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Now, is Cliff still here? Yeah, look, he's still in the comments. Here's the one for Cliff. Well, I said that before I had it ready, and I will share this link. And you had to be a long-time viewer to know why it's skincare adverts. That's what Cliff's all about.
Well, if you're a fan of Blake Seven and you'd like a lasting memento of the series, what about your own teleport bracelet, like the ones worn by the crew of the Scorpio?
So that's quite enough of that, but I will put that link in the comments for you, Cliff, because I know you're a great big Blake Seven fan. So you can make your own Wish. No, it won't be the same, will it? It just won't be the same. So what other stories before we go? The Think Flight, the very excellent Quick Wing is now available, and you want it. Oh, here we are. Here's a new. Oh, here we are. Drones. Here's an item from Ian.
No,
was I supposed to spy this? Was I supposed to have spotted this earlier and I didn't, or is it? Okay,
no. I just this is what Bruce found. I'm not ready yet, but as soon as I saw the headline and Bruce's comment, I thought I don't really want to read that because I know it's going to wind me up. It's, again, it's funny enough though. This guy's on Twitter, so I'll give him a follow, all you drone people. So that's Charlie Taylor. So he's the inspector of prisons. Now, actually, I think I'm going to start FOIing this inspector of prisons because the MOJ, Ministry of Justice, that run the prisons, they won't be forthcoming about anything. They just don't want to admit that most of the problems of the staff and the mailroom, and while drones are a problem, they're not the majority of it. So I'm hoping the inspector of prisons will be more open because there's no reason for them not to be, because it's their job to inspect the prison to find the issues. So hopefully they will be more open. So I want to do that. But also as well, it's checking some of the narrative they're putting out, that they're not spinning it for their own bigging up, because it's their job to be a bit hysterical about the prisons, arguably. So it's good to question them as well. So I think that's what I'll look into doing. But yeah, it kind of doesn't surprise me, this kind of story. But we already know that most of the contraband's getting in through the staff, and they can carry far more gear in. And we saw already from the video last week, I think it was, that a corrupt prison officer that I think had been smuggling stuff in for 3 years only got searched twice. So he could take in a whole range of guns, far more than any drones taken in. So this issue here of, it could take in something more serious. Well, yes, so could a prison guard.
Prison officer, yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if they read my tweet, because they changed the first line of that story was, "It's only a matter of time." It doesn't read that way anymore.
Oh,
was it really? Was it really your famous source?
It's only a matter of time before drones are used to bring guns into prisons, and they've changed it.
I think you will have to have a look at that and see if we can see that on archive.org. That could even be worthy of a complaint, really, with BBC, because they're supposed to be less clickbaity. But yeah, that's full on clickbait. But it might just be the stories in more than one place, but I don't think so. It actually says updated 10:55 GMT, doesn't it? So it has had an update at some point.
Yeah. I'm embarrassed.
Only a matter of time. Only a matter of time. How many
the other thing when you're doing that, if you're not already, Bruce, is it always names the reporters on there. So get the reporters themselves tagged in it. That definitely changes behaviours, and it makes them hate you. But that comes with it.
I'm sure
Unfortunately,
I'm sure these people have been using cars to get to these locations, or using phones to call people and
Wearing
plan and
boots.
stuff. Yeah, and so why not ban cars? Why not ban phones? If they're used,
Why not ban guns? That would
why
work.
not ban guns? Why not have remote ID on guns?
Yeah.
Oh, you be careful. You can't say that. Oh my God, you can't say that. They'll get you shot in America.
Thankfully,
He's not in America, is he? Yeah, that's right.
And bullets can't
Bloody
travel
good
there.
shot.
Ah.
Yeah, they
Well,
get him
actually-
from there. They're a bloody good shot. Yeah.
I could see the Europeans bringing it in because they're not as crazy.
Well, but why is it crazy to have some form of tracking on something that can definitely kill people?
Well, that would be common sense and sensible. We could put it on 12-bore shotguns, but we wouldn't, and we can buy and own them here in the UK.
Yeah, but it assumes guilt. It assumes that without tracking, you're going to do bad things, and that's
Oh.
not the premise of justice.
Oh gosh, and we've got a lawyer here as well.
Don't kill people. People kill people.
People
I'm just
kill
reading
people.
down
Yeah,
this
that's right.
BBC picture, and it's even more concerned because it's a lot of quotes this from the Prison Officers Association. The very association will never criticise staff for any of the problems that go on. So he's blaming it, on drones and going, I predict there could be a total disaster if one of these prisons, if drones are flown in with incendiary devices. So we now go to exploding drones, guns
Dum-dum
or
bullets.
ammunition.
Yeah.
But why would they making them blow up over the prison? For
Well,
big
the
escape?
meetings like blow the wall down so people can all run out and escape, won't they?
watching too many.
Do that.
Too many stories from Ukraine.
And then they're down there. It's got the old the counter drone again. Counter drone, piggyback. That'd sort it all. Because we know it wouldn't. You'd just be on a different band, and your drone's getting through anyway. You can ultimately the only way you ever stop drones is you're two ways. You either physical prevention. You can't get the drone in there. Quite expensive, but it's one way it works. And the other one is you actually have people proactively. You detect the drones, you detect the pilot, and you arrest them. You immediately put the end to it. Picking a drone back doesn't
no
put the
drone
end to it.
signs.
Just
No drone
Science
signs.
is no drones. Yeah, I mean all these things that if people think that laws and rules work, that's going to work as well.
It's they have the same thing on the roads to stop people from speeding. They just put a number up.
Only 5 drones.
Yes,
That sounds like common sense, doesn't it?
That's why we have lawyers to eradicate
Com-
these.
Common sense is not common.
No.
Yes, see me.
No.
See
And
me.
on that bombshell, look, we've nearly gone for an hour and a half. So I think
Oh,
it's
just
good.
one
Say bombshell on a drone.
Here we go.
Can't say-
I thought we were going to get away with that. Here we go.
if you're going to stereotype me as that, I can't disappoint. I was going to
No,
say
that's true.
Ipso have replied back, and I've not read it yet because I just can't. With having the DFT thing on, that's more important at the minute anyway. But I just didn't want it sapping my soul because they're basically doing the old Ipso thing of just swatting me away and saying it's quite fine to, present such a misleading story as they tend to be when if I was ever to complain about one. So I'll have to see through it and see if there's anything I can argue back. I can kind of appeal it, but with Ipso, it's hard to get anything through and even harder for it to ever get accepted. So I may well give it a go, but I've probably got like a 10% chance. So I just thought I'd update on that. It's hard work, but sometimes you've just got to do it because you just hope that eventually it'll become less common just because people know, or at least people think a bit more when they're doing the stories of I should probably consider these additional angles or make a better case. But it is what it is.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't think I've got anything else to hijack you with before you end it.
All right. Well, let's try and make it all the way around to 1 minute. I've got a minute and 10 seconds to ask Bruce about his upcoming videos and his health, because we had a video about your health update. So you've got a minute. Go.
without hesitation, repetition, or deviation.
Exactly. Yes.
Buzzer. no, I'm feeling a lot better now. Yeah, and videos are coming out. I've got several on the pipeline now. I should have another one out probably today or tomorrow. So, and the summer starts on Thursday because that's when the warm weather arrives. 24 degrees. It's going to be here on Thursday.
Oh,
so
don't. It's been so hot here today. It's been so hot. It's been way too hot here today.
Stop complaining. It's so cold here. I'm so jealous.
Wasn't it Arctic Circle last week, guys? Let's see.
Yeah, it was in the 40s today. And on that,
And when you're in the Arctic Circle, were you waiting on some show to do a live stream by any chance?
with 1,000 drones ready to go live to it, perhaps, and Bruce didn't notice, that sort of a thing. Dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, look after yourselves. See you again next week at 2100 Gin and Tonic, when we'll talk more nonsense as ever. Take care, everybody. Bye bye for now.